Welcome back in the Dutch warehouse. We're on our imaginary roof. And today we'll talk about cowtails, lanyards, and different forest devices. Eric.
Hey Nico. Yeah, so I had some trouble choosing what to wear today, so I thought I'll bring it all. What do you think?
With like all the lanyards, but no idea.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so what I maybe propose is have a look at different type of lanyards and see if we can sort of sort this mess out. Look at different applications and then what type of lanyards we could use for that. Is that an idea?
Sounds good.
Yep, so we're looking at different applications of cowtails because what we see is we use different type of cowtails for different applications. So it sort of makes sense to first look at the different types of applications before we can choose which lanyard to use. So the first use of a cowtail would be as an equipment lanyard. So the only purpose you use it for is actually from equipment preventing to drop it. So that's the first use. So it doesn't have to be any specific type of rope, any type of lanyards. Next one.
The second one would be work restraint. It must be strong enough to keep me away from the edge so I can still work safely. And even in case of tripping, I would never come close to danger.
Yeah, so there's never any potential of falling in it. If I'm correct?
Yes.
Yep. Good. So next application is using as a work positioning lanyard. So I'm suspended now from the cowtail, so it's only static use. I can either do it by suspending myself directly from the anchor or putting a cowtail on sort of a ropey type of lanyard. But everything is under tension already, so there's no potential for falling.
The other version will be on a traverse. Now I need two lanyards so that as soon as I come towards a connection, I can still be attached. Here there's a small chance of falling, but it's only short distances, half a meter, smaller as factor 1.
Yeah, so the last application, sort of the worst thing we can do with a lanyard, is using them as in a fall arrest application. So we're above our anchors now, so if I fall, it will be pretty severe, so up to a fell factor 2. We assume you know what a fell factor is, but basically a high fell factor means big falls, big impact loads on our equipment. So that's what we call fall arrest.
I think we talked a bit about different applications now, and a minute ago you were wearing all different types. I think we should go through different types and talk about pros and cons.
Yeah, let's see what we got.
Well, you already were wearing two cowtails, knotted from rope.
Yeah.
I'm wearing basically the same, but with a small connection in between, with the advantage, which I can use it as a short connection. There's a but. It's not a separate line. It's not a separate connection point besides the two I already have. Next.
Good. Yeah.
We put up a little shop. Let's go quickly through them, what they are, and then slowly go into depth.
Yeah, from left to the right, we've got the Petzl Spelikica, which is a sling type of lanyard. We've got the Petzl Progress Adjust, which is an adjustable lanyard. We've got a knotted piece of dynamic climbing rope, just ordinary climbing rope from the gym. We've got the Petzl Jane type of dynamic rope, but with sewn ends on them. We've got proper fall arrest lanyards, again from Petzl. You would think we've got shares in Petzl, but it's just coincidence. And last but not least, we've got a grillon, which is again an adjustable type of lanyard.
Um, for the full rest, it goes to the upper point.
And why is that?
Well, when I fall in it, my body takes a shock nicely. It's a higher point, so I'm more stable, more protection on my back. And if I make a fall with more force or with a higher fall factor, inside is a knitted piece of webbing which will rip open when the force comes somewhere between 4 kN, but for sure to keep it under 6 kN, because that's unpleasant for my body.
Cool. So, can you use them in a static mode or dynamic?
You use them in static mode, for example, when you're climbing up ladders, where you make movements where it's quite likely that your points come lower than you ideally would have. On a static mode, they're not made for static resting in it. So hanging in it is not ideal.
No. Cool. Next one is our knotted bit of dynamic rope. It looks a bit homemade, it is actually, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's actually my personal favorite. I've got them already on my harness. So what's to tell about it? First of all, it's cheap, which is also a point. You can make them yourself, so you can make them the length you like, which is also an advantage. You can use them as a work restraint lanyard, obviously, because there's no loading on them. You can use them as a work positioning lanyard, where you're suspended from them. You can use them in limited fall applications, so a smaller fall, like maximum fall factor 1, sort of designed for that, because it's stretchy rope. Yeah, so what you see is the knots on the end actually play an important part in absorbing any shocks on them. So it's not just a way of terminating it, they're actually doing something next to the rope, which is a bit stretchy. But because they're so short, the knots are actually taking most of the shock absorbing when you would fall on them. So it's a nice little thing. So I've got 2 separate ones made from different bits of rope. Nico got a nice setup there. Could you tell us something about that?
Besides the 2 separate ones, let me just put one away. They're connected in the middle, which I can use as a short positioning place. It won't give me an extra connection point, but it could be a nice place to attach myself so I can rest and sit into it.
Good. So the next one, this is a recent invention from Petzl. It's called the Progress Adjust. So it's designed to go on the central D-ring on the harness. So you can either use a Mayon or choke it directly on your D-ring. And it's sold as a adjustable work positioning lanyard. So it's mainly designed to be used in a static application where you would suspend yourself from it and can adjust it up to the millimeter to the height you wanna have it. So it's a nice piece of kit. It's a bit more expensive, but you get a bit more for it from it. It's sort of designed to take a very limited fall, but you have to be careful with them. So I wouldn't recommend using them for stuff like live lining or falling it.
The grillon, it has similar features as the Adjust. It is a adjustable lanyard. I can hang on it. A plus feature is that it's under load, possible to descend on it or change the length. which is with the adjust a lot more difficult. So it will give you a bit more flexibility in the ropes if you have to go left or right. It looks a bit like a grigri, but there is, between the grillon and the grigri, there is quite a difference. The grillon misses a spring, so it blocks off nicer and easier. And then as well, I wouldn't use this for an application where it would be possible to fall in.
No, Petzl says you can take a very limited fall in it, so maximum half a meter, they specify it. But in normal day, that would be really difficult to control, to stay within that half meter, so I wouldn't recommend it at all to use it for that application. But they're great for like work restraint stuff, where you have to adjust it at the right length. A bit expensive, a bit bulky, but might have some use. What we have here is called a Petzl chain. So it goes on the low point on the harness. It's dynamic rope, it doesn't look like it, but it is dynamic rope. And it's mainly sold as a work positioning lanyard, so to be suspended from it. They say you can take a limited fall in it. The problem I have is that the endings are soon, so they're very static. So if you were to make a fall in it, the forces will be really high on your body. So I would only recommend it in like static applications, like passing relays or suspending yourself from it. There is a little shock indicator in there. So there's a small bit of string coming out, and if you would shock load it, this will be pulled inside, so you can actually check yourself if it's been exposed to any big falls. So that's a nice feature I like about them.
The Speliga, oh, where am I, Caroline? A bit similar to Jane. It will give me a long and a short connection, but since they're connected only on one point, you won't gain anything from that. It's completely static. It's nice for positioning yourself or for tools. I wouldn't use it in a fall where there's a chance of a fall application, because this device will give me no dampening in the system. I think this is all of them.
Yeah, I think so. How many cowtails do you need actually? I've seen, well, we've got plenty, but how many would you typically need on your harness?
Well,
can you do without? Is there?
I think when I'm going down, I don't need any.
No, I agree. So if you're only doing abseiling and you start from a safe location, there's no need to tether your tools or anything. So you can actually work without any cowtail. If you were to also ascend on ropes, you sort of, the need for having one cowtail as an equipment lanyard would arise because you need your Jumar. So if you're only going up and down, you could do with one lanyard.
And if we go on a traverse, I think it's nice to have two, to be able to safely pass knots, horizontal or vertical.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think sort of two is a sort of acceptable situation where you're between the amount of equipment you're taking and the amount you're actually going to use. So for Greenpeace climbing, I think you can do almost all climbing you do with two lines. There's only two. You can take three, but you would rarely ever need it. The only thing you would really have to use for tree count is when you start doing stuff like 8 climbing, where you want to have two lanyard connections and a third one to suspend yourself from. But it's sort of a very specialized application. So for normal day use, if you have two, that you should be able to do most of the stuff I can think of. If you bring the one Nico has, you sort of have a nice middle of the road option where you have two, and you could use them as 3 if you want to. Well, thanks for watching. We hope you liked this episode. Nico, what's our conclusion?
think about what application you're going to use your lanyard cowtails follow rest system for.
Yeah, so for your convenience, we made a little chart where you can see different types of cowtails we've talked about today and their applications as a sort of a tool for you to help decide which cowtail to bring on your next climbing action. We've also put in a link to a report from the French Caving Federation. They did some interesting tests on different type of lanyards with different type of felt factors. So it's a good read. It's available in English. So have a look at that if you want.
And when in doubt, dress like Eric.
Yeah.
See you next time.
See you next time.